from residents on Pace Street. Are there any questions or comments from the board about the petition? Hearing none, we'll move on to item 7, unfinished business. There is something from Griggs and Maloney about a crosswalk on Highway 70. Frank or Nolan, you want to add some context to this?
Oh, yes. Everyone has one?
I got him.
Oh, that's just the 70 bypass and Old Smithville Highway. Greg's and Maloney's asking for more money due to their expenses of dealing just through the pandemic and stuff like that. This will be paid through the STBG grant. We've done this for KCI in the past, just probably 3 months ago, I guess. And they're just more or less asking for more money because of the cost of stuff going up. And they've had to deal with the state just on the contracts and stuff.
There was an issue finding the right of way on the Shoe Sensation Encore side of the street.
Yeah, that was a big
They
deal.
never could find the right of way, even with us helping. And then as far as the STBG money, that's Surface Transportation Block Grant. Money comes from TDOT. It's not even coming out of our pockets. So that will cover this overage on the contract. We just have to get the revised contract approved for TDOT to pay on it.
Yeah.
Was Mr. Purtle? Oh, go ahead.
Can we just approve more money for them last time?
That was for KCI.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Same issue though.
Procedurally, what do we need to do with this? I
You
mean,
need to pass a resolution tonight to accept, adopt, and ratify the Griggs and Maloney consultant contract as amended.
So given that this is not on the agenda and is of somewhat time sensitive, we do need to suspend rules regarding public notice to approve this. I'll entertain a motion to do so.
So moved.
A motion by Mr. Stacy Harvey,
Second.
second by Miss Rachel Kirby, all in favor. Aye, motion passes.
Thank
Now I'll entertain a motion to, Tim, can you say that one more time?
Accept, adopt, and ratify the Griggs and Maloney consultant contract as amended.
We'll entertain that.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Stacy Harvey, a second by Mr. Steve Harvey. There's a motion and a second. Is there any questions or discussion by the board on this matter? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote.
Sally Brock,
Yes.
Mayor Chastain.
Aye.
Deidre Dunlap,
Aye.
Stacy Harvey,
Aye.
Steve Harvey,
Yes.
Rachel Kirby,
Yes.
Carrie Morton. Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Is there any other unfinished business to come before the board this evening? Hearing none, we'll move on to item 8, new business. Does any member of the board have any new business this evening? Hearing none, we'll move on to item 9, resolutions. Item 9A is resolution number 2202, a resolution to authorize the city of McMinnville to accept the best bid from Mack of Nashville for a 2023 Mack MD 742 knuckle boom truck in the amount of $193,360.45 in accordance with specifications of the city of McMinnville Public Works Department, to authorize the city administrator to issue the necessary purchase order on behalf of the city and to express the time when this resolution becomes effective. Do I have a motion to approve?
Yes.
Have a motion by Ms. Carrie Morton,
Second.
second by Ms. Sally Brock. Any questions? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote.
Sally Brock,
Yes.
Mayor Chastain,
Yes.
Deidre Dunlap,
Aye.
Stacy Harvey,
Aye.
Steve Harvey,
Yes.
Rachel Kirby,
Yes.
Carrie Morton. Yes.
Motion passes. Item 9B is resolution number 2203, a resolution to authorize the city of McMinnville to purchase a 2003 Freightliner FL70 vacuum truck for $28,687.50 for the city of McMinnville Water and Sewer Department, to authorize the city administrator to issue the necessary purchase order and to express the time when this resolution becomes effective. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Miss Sally Brock,
Second.
second by Miss Rachel Kirby. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote.
Sally Brock,
Yes.
Mayor Chastain,
Aye.
Deidre Dunlap,
Aye.
Stacy Harvey,
Aye.
Steve Harvey,
Yes.
Rachel Kirby.
Yes.
Carrie Morton. Yes.
Motion passes. Item 9C is resolution number 2204, a resolution to authorize the city of McMinnville to accept the Sourcewell contract 090320-SDI from Brightly for community development software in the amount of $31,020.59, to authorize the city administrator to issue the necessary purchase order on behalf of the city and to express the time when this resolution becomes effective. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion.
Oh.
Mr. Purtle, do we need to suspend rules regarding public notice since it was in a committee meeting last night that had to,
And yesterday, which
Yesterday's.
yeah,
was adjourned or
there wasn't.
Without-
so it would be prudent to do it on record.
Okay. We'll need a motion to suspend the rules regarding public notice for this resolution as well.
So moved.
Motion by Miss Sally Brock,
Second.
second by Miss Rachel Kirby. All in favor? Aye, motion passes. Now I'll entertain a motion to approve this resolution.
Motion to approve the resolution for the software.
Have a motion by Miss Rachel Kirby,
Second.
second by Miss Deidre Dunlap. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote.
Sally Brock,
Yes.
Mayor Chastain.
Aye.
Deidre Dunlap,
Aye.
Stacy Harvey,
Aye.
Steve Harvey,
Yes.
Rachel Kirby.
Yes.
Carrie Morton. Yes.
Motion passes. Move on to item 10, ordinances. Item 10A is an ordinance to amend and delete the section requiring final inspection agreements and fees as outlined in Exhibit A of Ordinance 1772. This is the second and final reading. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Stacy Harvey,
Second.
second by Ms. Deidre Dunlap. Any questions for community development on this matter? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote.
Sally Brock,
Yes.
Mayor Chastain,
Aye.
Deidre Dunlap,
Aye.
Stacy Harvey,
Aye.
Steve Harvey,
Yes.
Rachel Kirby.
Yes.
Carrie Morton. Yes.
Motion passes. Item 10B is the first reading of ordinance number 1856 regarding rezoning a parcel of land located on Pace Street from R1 to PRD. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr. Stacy Harvey. I will second that motion. Before we open this up for discussion, I would like to invite the developer up just to answer any questions, provide any kind of presentation that you might have for those who were not in attendance at the planning commission meeting.
Sure. I could talk for a couple of minutes and then, okay. So yes, our request is to rezone this property to PRD, keeping it residential. But higher density. As a McMinnville native and builder in Warren County, one of the most common discussions I get into with people about housing is affordability. And so seeing that need and trying to blend attainability with market appeal is what's led us to this desire to do the single family attached dwellings in the PRD. So this would be a project that would be completed over the course of many years, in phases, as the absorption rate of McMinnville was able to supply and demand with the houses. There would be, as was previously mentioned, an HOA that would help maintain the exterior maintenance, landscaping, curb appeal, and then hold up all the rules and regulations of the neighborhood as well. So just generally speaking, I think, we all know that housing has increased dramatically in the past few years, 57% in Warren County over the past 3 years, which is $100,000. And so with the average household disposable income being just over $40,000, we're trying to bridge that gap between attractive housing and realistic attainability. Currently, as was mentioned, there are 2 PRDs that are already developed. One of the 2 is surrounded completely by R1 properties, and the other is kind of on the edge of the city. It does border some R1 type neighborhoods, but outside of the city, which isn't surprising. The current makeup of the zoning in McMinnville is roughly 43% R1, 9% R2, and 7% R3. So the R2 and R3, a lot of those are developed. They're currently none offered for sale. I know that was a question kind of at the last meeting, that would be feasible for this kind of property, which is the reasoning for asking for this zoning change for this property on Pace Street. I think just in general, as we talk about higher density, there are some misunderstandings, some misconceptions. They're not properties that are common around here, but nationally they've been gaining a lot of traction. There's been a lot of studies done as they relate to traffic, as they relate to safety, and so as far as traffic goes, there's great benefit to a community as a whole, given that there's a more concentrated traffic, and so there's the studies that I saw referenced 38% fewer miles traveled from residents that live in a denser community as opposed to traditional kind of sprawling R1 residences, just given the fact that they live in a centralized location, a little bit closer to town and amenities versus being dispersed all around. So that decreases the overall infrastructure needs of the city as a whole. Specifically on Pace Street, I know there's been several comments made about the current traffic on Pace Street. I was looking at the TDOT statistics on that. Obviously, Red Road and Faulkner Springs on either side have much higher level of traffic than Pace Street itself. But looking at Couch Street, which is a similar street to Pace Street has 40% less traffic than what's currently on Couch Street. And so I believe that the addition of this development wouldn't greatly move the needle to make this a strange outlier as far as other roads go in the county. Also, higher density does lead to a little bit more environment friendly development, less runoff, less water consumption, less road coverage, less land disturbance. I know there were some comments made about that as well, about clearing, and we all like to look at pretty land and things like that, but higher density allows for a greater amount of that to be in our community. So just, I guess, to reiterate, this is a project that wouldn't happen overnight. Our goal is as developers, we would be invested in this community for a long term, and so it would not be in our interest to do something that would lower property values. National studies by the National Association of Home Builders, by Harvard, by Virginia Tech have all found that there is not a decrease in property values for single family properties that surround higher density properties. And some found that there was a slight increase in some instances, but no decrease in property values for that proximity. And I think that we see that in our own community with the PRDs that already exist. I don't think that there's a negative impact that's been felt in those areas. So we're hoping to build something that the 20-year-olds in our community are going to be able to, as they try to move out, that they're going to be able to afford. We're hoping to build something that the people that have a smaller household it makes sense for them. According to the Tennessee Comptroller's Office, 47% of adults in Warren County are widowed, divorced, or never married, we're hoping to create a place that that empty nesters are able to downsize to, and be able to have more disposable income to spend on things that they want, visiting grandkids, traveling. So that's the goal. I know there's been some pushback, but our vision is to create a community that would be attractive, that would be beneficial, that would have a positive impact on the community and on the specific area, that would be attainable housing for the McMinnville residents. So,
Can you state your name, please?
oh, I'm sorry, Harrison Hale.
Thank you.
Mr. Hale, a couple of things that I guess you were still working through at the planning commission meeting. One, were these units going to be for sale or for rent? And if they're for sale, for ownership, I know at the time you were still working out a ballpark figure for what the price range might be. Is there any updates on those?
There's no true update on that. Kind of as Sean was getting into a little bit, to be able to have all the answers as far as what quality, or not quality, but rather what kind of fixtures are going to be placed on the houses as far as material decisions and all of that kind of stuff. Studies need to happen, and time and effort and money needs to be put into it. And so we've not done any further like analysis or study in that vein at this time.
And then one more question. I'm not saying that this is a reflection of everyone's thoughts, but some people I've heard from think that if this fails and you're not able to build these townhomes, that you're not building anything there. I want to kind of dispel that, and that is not correct, right?
That's correct, right? So purchasing this property, we knew what it was zoned, right? And so we knew what was currently feasible with the current zoning and what we hoped to attain with the PRD. And so we purchased it having done an analysis on R1, what we could put in with the current zoning, and made sure that made sense for us. And so obviously we would need to regroup and figure that out. But that was at the purchase, that was the intention. Well, if we can't get the PRD passed, then we will go with the R1 plan with putting in roads and
wanted that out there on the record for
Yeah.
the community to know, for those who are not in attendance or are watching online, because there are people out there who think that if you don't build the townhomes, it's just going to stay a vacant lot.
Right.
So,
Right. So I think a lot of concerns about construction traffic and things like that, like it, unfortunately it is probably gonna happen regardless. So this is just more a question of the density and of the, I think it was mentioned earlier as well, if with a PRD, you do get an HOA, you do get more cohesive design styles and more attractability, so to speak, of the neighborhood versus single family R1 residential lots that maybe don't have an HOA and have less conforming features.
ma'am, we're not really taking public comment at this point. That's what the public hearing earlier was for. I apologize. Is Ricky in here? Can you come up here, Mr. Morton? I know that in the public hearing and in my conversations with several members of the community, there have been concerns about, I haven't heard anything about water pressure, but it's about drainage. Is there anything that we can do in this area to mitigate that?
That more on Frank, as far as the water
Okay.
pressure, I'll speak to that if you want me to.
You can. I honestly have never heard that before.
It's actually the first that I've heard, but we've checked pressure in that. I think he talked to Ms. Rutledge. And we went over there and checked pressure. You're at 62 on pace. I would say Delano and Franklin, all those are going to be equal pressure.
What should it be?
That's exactly where it should be.
Okay.
And a lot of it could be the infrastructure on the homes. If the home is older and has galvanized plumbing from the meter to the house, you've got all those tubercles, which can reduce pressure. But if anybody wants to call the water department, we'll come out and check the pressure for you. But there shouldn't be any issue as far as.
Technically speaking, that's not a city. Theoretically, it's not a city of McMinnville problem if the pressures have been checked and they're
It's
okay.
really not. And, you could have a smaller size line underneath the house. They're half inch lines and they're flood with certification over the years, but we figured these like.
Thank you.
We've got plenty of flow in that area that it should handle. There's an 8-inch line on the page. Most of it's got 6-inch lines, so we shouldn't have a problem. Pressure, minimum pressure for the state of Tennessee, maybe PSI. So, flood problem.
You had a question about stormwater.
Yeah, drainage mitigation.
Really, the stormwater, I would think that would be on the developer as far as,
I think the question was, have you yourself been familiar with issues in the area? Or what's the history that you're aware of?
never really no issues of
Yeah, 'cause-
stormwater.
Yeah, and myself as well until this
Yeah.
has come up. So I was just curious.
Yeah, they've never been an issue.
Okay.
If I may, I'd like to ask Mr. Hale a question. So, and bear with me.
Yes, sir.
All right. Have you ever spoken to me before?
No,
Have we ever done any business together?
no.
Okay, I just want to get that out there on the record, given that you and I are in the same industry.
Okay.
One of my questions is, you spoke to an HOA, and I understand you're going to do this in phases. So who has control of that HOA in the interim phase as this development goes in? Are the developers going to head that up and basically make those decisions until what point? That, because we say an HOA, but at some point until there are HOs, it would be the developer at
Right.
that point. So at what point and at what saturation level of that development would it be actually enforced?
Well, I think it would be enforced from the beginning, from the first resident moving in, but as far as control of the HOA, I think what I typically see, if I'm remembering right, is within the HOA, there will be a line that says something to the effect of, such and such developer is in charge of the HOA until 70% occupancy or something along those lines.
70%.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And I have one more.
Sure.
And this, I don't know if this is not the right forum, then please ignore the question, but I think this needs to be asked. A lot of the residents, as you've heard here, I assume you were here. Were you
Yes,
here for the
yes.
public meeting?
Yes.
A lot of the residents have stated, there were 11 issues. Out of the 11 issues, 6 of them were traffic related. As I was thinking about this the other day, in most high traffic areas, we have a dedicated turn lane to facilitate ingress and egress to residences, commercial businesses, whatever. Would you entertain the option of seeding some frontage on Pay Street to allow some cooperative work between the city? And this is all hypothetical at this point. I have no authority to say that we would do this. Would you consider seeding some ground there on the frontage of Pay Street to allow the creation of a turn lane? That way we could alleviate some of these folks' concerns about, access and egress to their property due to traffic. Would that be something that you would consider?
Yeah, I think so. I think kind of as I was saying earlier, in the sense that this is not a typical house building investment in the sense of like build the house for 6 months and get out of there 9 months later. And so it's very much within our interest for this property and the surrounding community to be a good property, a usable property. And so I think the things that we would need to do to make sure to ensure that that it was usable, that the traffic was acceptable, we don't want to mess up the area. I mean, my father also, he grew up on Pay Street for a few years, and that's not what we're after. And then obviously we need to sell the houses that are built within there. So I think definitely that's something that that as we got into it, as we did some more studies and figured out the needs, that we could certainly go down that path.
Okay, thank you, sir.
And if I may just address quickly the drainage thought, the property Pay Street itself, I can't speak to the other properties on Pay Street, but our property on Pay Street, the majority of the property slopes away from Pay Street. So there's a small section, I think, that slopes a little bit towards Pay Street, but then, I mean, if we're talking about 32 acres, like the vast majority of that slopes away from Pay Street. And of course, all of that drainage would be taken care of on the development side. I believe our requirements are that whatever the speed that water is draining off the property currently, we have to maintain that same speed.
Tell me about green space.
So we have requirements for green space, and so we have intentions as well for the community as a whole. We've been kicking around some ideas to do we'll have a decent amount of space in the back that will definitely be dedicated to green space, and some other places maybe. And so we've been entertaining the idea of walking trails and of like little playground areas for kids and maybe like a dog park, that sort of thing.
You said the back, does that not slope a lot in the back of that property?
Yeah, there are some, so the back, if bird's eye, the back right hand side is pretty sloped. The back left, a lot less so. It's less feasible maybe to put an entire road back there, but a walking trail, and there's some flatter areas definitely there as well. So
Ms. Morton. Ms. Dunlap.
So the original purchase of the property, you mentioned that knowing going in that it was R1. So did you intend in the beginning to just build single family homes and then change your mind and decide to go with the townhomes?
no, the intention was to try to get the PRD approved and go with townhomes. We'll go with, I guess I should say, go with a higher density was the intention the whole time. And of course, as we dove into the specific ordinances and regulations, we learned some different things, but yes.
Upon research of your development group of Heron Homes, I noticed some really nice homes on your website. Are those a reflection of what homes you would you replicate those style homes if you build a subdivision?
So we do build a variety of homes. And so we build some homes in the Morrison area that are in the $600,000 price point. That is really not the intention for this project. This project, the intention is to focus more on attainability. However, that being said, we do build a lot of houses in the Whispering Hills subdivision, and we try to make sure to put in different features that stand out, features that we feel are good for a buyer that they don't normally get in a 1,400 square foot house. So it's definitely our intention to not cut corners and have a house that I would want to live in, that my wife would want to live in.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Kirby.
I don't think I have any questions.
I have some remarks that I prepared about this, and I'll just start at the top and read it. And it starts with truth. Sometimes truth is unwelcome and upsetting because it is not beholden to religion or politics, affiliations, or social circles. But the truth is, this project is the right move for the city of McMinnville, in my opinion. I've been on this board for nearly 10 years and have heard that entire time that McMinnville needs more housing. The Upper Cumberland Development District says this, the UCHRA says this, our citizens say this, and even made the point of listing it as a priority on recent community planning surveys by literally stating the city should encourage more residential housing developments. McMinnville is growing. In the last year alone, our community received word that Bridgestone will be undergoing a sizable expansion, resulting in nearly 400 new positions, that a steel company and spirits bottling facility would be opening in Morrison, that Motlow and TCAP would be expanding their campuses, as well as other projects that are still on the horizon. This is in addition to a number of people who have already moved here from areas such as Nashville, Chattanooga, and Murfreesboro to escape massive increases in property taxes, which leads me to my next point. As McMinnville grows, we have to maintain services for our residents, and we do that mostly through taxes paid for on property. And in order to continue providing those top-notch services without raising taxes, we have to continually add to the tax base. Luckily, we have not had to do this in over a decade in terms of raising taxes, but without growth and without development, we potentially face stagnation and risk offering second-tier services to our residents. I've heard a number of concerns regarding this project, but not one of them can't be mitigated. Pace Street can be widened slightly and have turn lanes installed. A sidewalk can be laid from one end of the street to another. Speed bumps, while unsightly, can be put in place to help slow drivers. Stormwater and drainage issues are already being looked at internally as well as in conjunction with the University of Tennessee School of Engineering. I've also heard a number of concerns about property rights and have been asked a number of times, don't our rights matter? Of course they do, but so do Mr. Hale's. No one person or group of people has any more right on their property than someone else does on theirs. My last point is in regards to legality. It has already been established that this proposal meets the requirements for the rezoning requested. If we deny this request based solely on public outcry, we face the threat of litigation that we will likely lose, in which case we will be forced to rezone the property anyway. As the mayor of this city, I have a fiduciary responsibility to each and every one of you and don't want to see your hard-earned tax dollars spent on frivolous, unavoidable lawsuits. Change is often feared, but at times it is needed for the better good. And all things considered, I feel it is my responsibility to the community as a whole to support this endeavor. And I thank you all for being present and speaking up, because that is how democracy is supposed to work. Thank you. So.
Would you mind if I make a comment as well? Thank you for that. You stole my thunder, so I won't state what he said to the letter. But I will say that recently we held a planning session, this board and the department heads. It was held over at the Civic Center, and from a consultant, I believe she was from Illinois. And out of the citywide, I think it was a strategic survey. Was that the proper terminology for that? It was a citywide strategic survey. And to echo what the mayor said, we had three priorities. One was streets, paving, drainage issues, and housing. And out of the hundreds of respondents to that survey, I feel that they gave us a prime directive to address those needs. And here we are, less than a month later, facing that exact same issue. The amount of property tax that this development would bring into the city would pave a mile of city streets. The amount of building permits and fees would then help us do other work within the city that are sorely needed. And the true benefit of that would be to attain an influx of new homes here that would service all facets of the community, not just one facet, all, as you mentioned. People that are just starting out, all the way to empty nesters, people that are downsizing. And I believe that this development, if properly executed and properly regulated, would benefit the entire city. And I do not believe that it would cause anything of significant damage. As a matter of fact, I think it has a potential to enhance that area because no doubt, I believe that there's going to have to be for some infrastructure improvements in that area. And I believe this is the way to get that done. So I think it's a good thing for the city of McMinnville. And I know that's a different opinion than you guys have, but I'm not going to lie to you. I'm going to look you right in the face and tell you that I think it's a good thing. And several hundred residents of the city of McMinnville told us what they wanted us to do, and I'm going to listen to them. Thank you.
I'd like to speak up too as well. I'll be a lot quicker than Mr. Harvey. I'm for growth and I'm also for housing, but I just don't feel that the number and the particular spot is a good thing for this neighborhood. And that's all I'll say about that.
And I would follow up just to say quickly that I think when people buy a home and they look that they're in a R1 and they rely on that to remain R1, they bought there counting on the fact that they would be in a neighborhood and that R1 that as it grew would be now R1, the single family homes. And that I think that's important. I think the Planning Commission felt that same way. I also think we're not shutting the door on progress with single family homes. Those have a lot of pluses as well. They make families, they make communities, they have neighborhoods with bicycles and so I don't think we're shutting down progress at all. I think we're maintaining the integrity to which it was planned for when it was all zoned as R1.
Well, I think that begs the question, what about the blue building project? Because while it's not high density, we approved a medium density in the middle of an R1 neighborhood on High Street. And now we're gonna have the blue building full of condominiums and the lot behind it full of townhomes as well. So I don't see a difference in that project and this.
High Street
Touche.
is a lot
Well-
less populated.
I just think too, that building was already there, had already been there. It had always been hoped that it would be reclaimed. Nobody wanted to tear it down.
Well, those 46 condos that are proposed in the back weren't there.
I agree.
I don't think it's completely surrounded by R1 either.
I mean, on one side of the street it is.
I'm gonna call
there's a
the
lot
question.
different.
We can sit here all night.
Well, what about the zoning? Since we're on that, what about the surrounding zoning of this property? Is it R1 all the way around?
The majority is R1 up at the northwest corner. There is some R3 that touches.
By
But the
motion
majority
or by a point of technicality, we have a motion on the floor to call for the question.
I
Is there
call
a
for the
second
question.
in that regard? All right, motion fails. I'm sorry, Mr. Jones.
Was that, wait a minute, that's a motion to go ahead and vote.
Yeah,
It is.
I'll second that.
okay. We have a motion and a second to call for the question. Call for the vote.
Sally Brown,
No.
Mayor Chastain,
Aye.
Deidre Dunlap,
Nay.
Stacy Harvey,
Aye.
Steve Harvey,
No,
Rachel Kirby,
No,
Carrie Morton. No.
Motion fails. The next item on the agenda is departmental reports. We have several department heads here this evening. If anyone wishes to address the board.
I'm afraid of what I did.
thank you for hearing.
Thank you.
Oh, nobody said you did it, but it's just.
he did. Totally.
Yes. That's, I remember seeing his name on the sign, but I didn't know what shirt.
We should have had a party. We should have had a party.
I guess we can go wherever they're going.
We had a lot of people. We should have had a big party.
Mr. Ming, do you have anything for departmental reports?
I do not.
Ricky in the back.
Any announcements? Mr. Purtle, we need to have an executive session, correct? All right, this meeting is about to conclude and we need to hold an executive session to discuss a legal matter that is not open to the public. So this meeting is adjourned and we ask that the boardroom be cleared. Thank you.